What's up, YouTube? Timmy here. Now, here is my throwback segment where I talk about the films that turns 10, 20, and 30 this week. All right. The film celebrating its 10th anniversary. Wow, this is some iconic here. We got Escape Plan. Now, Escape Plan was a prison action thriller that starred Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. This was actually the film that pretty much the first movie. Like they of course did Expendables together and everything, but this was actually the first film where they actually fully starred, opposite one another. And Escape Plan, of course, if you guys don't know much about the story here, it stars Stallone's character as Ray Breslin, a lawyer turned prison security, security tester, who is incarcerated in the world's most secret and secure prison, and recruits fellow inmate Emil Rottmeier, played by Schwarzenegger, to stage a breakout. It also features an interesting cast that include the likes of 50 Cent was in this, Jim Caviezel, and it's actually a really fun film. Like this movie definitely felt like old school 80s action right there. Seeing Stallone and on both going to both pairing up with one another is something lots of people like lots of people of the 80s action genre always wanted. uh Sadly, the movie did not do so well financially. I mean, you would have expected like a film, that pairs Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone would do well with audiences or even critics and stuff. And it did not do it nearly as well. Like they did do a sequel that had Stallone and Batista, but those weren't so good. But the first Escape Plan is really fun in my opinion. So if you guys haven't seen it, definitely give that one a go. All right, also turning 10, we got the remake of Carrie. Now the film stars Chloe Moretz as the title role of Carrie White, and it is a modern reimagining of Stephen King's novel about a shy outcast girl who's outcast by her peers and sheltered by her deeply religious mother, who uses her telekinetic powers with devastating effects after their failing victim to falling victim to a cruel prank at senior year. Now, of course, this is pretty much like a remake of. This is also a remake of the 1976 film with Sissy Spacek and the late Piper Laurie. The remake is actually it's nowhere near as good as the Sissy Spacek one. I had that. I still actually quite enjoy the remake. I thought it definitely was more darker than the original. That the prom scene really let's be for the prom scene in the original was creepy, but this takes that scene to a whole new level. You also had Ansel Elgort, which I believe this was his first film before. I think he did this before he did Fault in Our Stars, if I'm not mistaken. I believe this was his first film. Um, you also had some. You had like Judy Greer. You had Julianne Moore playing Margaret White. While she was nowhere near as good as Piper Laurie was, I thought Julianne Moore really played her part well. Chloe Moretz really embodied Carrie perfectly. I had a fun time with this. Like again, it's nowhere near as good as the original, but it's a really decent remake that I think is worth giving a go. All right. Also turning 10. We got some other stuff like we got Robert Redford's Oz Lost, directed by J.C. Chandler, who of course is the director of the upcoming Craven the Hunter. And this actually stars Robert Redford as a man lost at sea, and he's pretty much like the only cast member. And Rivers was pretty good in this. Like, the performance was really decent. I always do like some of these like one man survivor stories, whether it's Tom Hanks and Castaway, or let's say I don't know, Ryan Reynolds and Buried, or Tom Hardy and Locke. Something about these type of stories are always interesting. And Robert Redford, who I believe was in his 70s at the time, I can't remember how old he was when he made those. He really crushed it. So yeah, if you guys never really seen Oz Lost, give that one a go. All right. There's also The Fifth Estate, directed by Bill Condon, who of course directed like the last two Twilight movies, Beauty and the Beast. He's done some really decent stuff. Uh, this film stars Benedict Cumberbatch as as editor in chief and founder Julian Assange, who of course who gets was like the founder of WikiLeaks here, and you have Daniel Brew, who plays former spokesperson Daniel Damashadberg. And so, yeah, of course, this is a dramatic thriller based on real events that reveals the quest to expose the deception and corruption of the power that turned the internet upstart into 21st century's most fearless debate organization. You had a great cast here. You had like Ben Cumberbatch, Anthony Mackie, Stanley Tucci, Laura Linney, Alicia Vikander. So I was actually interested in this at first because of the cast alone. I was completely bored by this. I mean, it just nothing about this was all that interesting, other than Cumberbatch's performance. But even he wasn't enough to say this. I mean, yeah, I was not really too big with this one at all. So yeah, and then the other film turning 10 years ago is the Best Picture winner, and that is 12 Years a Slave. Now, 12 Years a Slave was directed by Steve McQueen, who's done stuff like Widows. Um, he also did that couple of Michael Fassbender movies like Shame and The Hunger. And the film is based on a true story, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor as Solomon Northam. Uh, and the film is based on the 1853 slave memoir of the same name, about an African American man who was kidnapped in Washington D.C. by two commands in 1841 and sold to slavery. He was edited in 1968 by Sue Aiken and Joseph Lodgson. And of course, Truth Ejiofor scored a Oscar nomination for this. You of course had Lupita Nyong'o in her acting debut. She of course won Best Supporting Actress. Top it off, the movie of course itself, obviously won Best Picture at the Oscar, which 12 Years a Slave is great. Don't get me wrong. I've already mentioned this, like yesterday. I still wish Wolf of Wall Street won that year. Man, I mean, 12 Years Slave is great, and obviously, it's a really interesting historical film. I still wish Wolf of Wall Street won that year, but hey, that's just me. But 12 Years Slave also had a great cast. Like, we're talking, Michael Fassbender, Benedict, the aforementioned Benedict Cumberbatch, Paul Dano, who was terrific in this, Garrett Dillahunt, Paul Giamatti, Scoot McNairy. I believe like Fassbender scored a nomination for this. I could be wrong there. You had Brad Pitt was in this, the late great Michael K. Williams. I mean, this is just a really terrific film. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really much of a historian, so I didn't really know too much about the story going in. But it really made me want to like at least learn a little more about it. And I thought Chiwetel Ejiofor was terrific in this. Lupita Nyong'o, let's be for real, she's just great in anything. I mean, if you guys never really seen 12 Years Slave, it's a really hard watch. Like, let me just say, I probably only see this movie maybe once or twice, and that's really it. Because let me just say, there's some this movie is just rough to watch. Like, it's not really a movie you could rewatch over and over. But it's still a really intriguing film, and I guess well deserving its Oscar win, even though I wanted Wolf of Wall Street to win that year. But can't get what you want in life. All right. Now the film's turning 20 this week. Speaking of horror remakes, the film turning 20, we got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, of course, if you guys don't know, back in like the 2000s, Hollywood were really keen on remaking iconic horror films. Obviously 2009 we had Friday the 13th, 2010 we had Nightmare on Elm Street, and obviously Halloween, and of course one of them was 2003's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Starring Jessica Biel. Who did not love Jessica Biel in that white tee? Come on. You had the late great Ollie Ermy, Jonathan Tucker, Mike Vogel. And if you guys don't know much about the story here, the plot follows a group of young adults traveling to rural Texas who encounters Leatherface and his murderous family. It is loosely a remake of Toby Hooper's 1974 film of the same name, and the fifth installment of the Texas Chainsaw franchise. You even had John Larroquette reprise his voice narration, and I really quite like the remake. I thought it definitely had some really cool kills. Really made what made like the original Texas Chainsaw so unique. Uh, I mean, Leatherface, let's be real, is one of the most iconic horror killers there is, and I've seen Leatherface tons of times. Whether it's Texas Chainsaw 3D, whether it's the Netflix one, which I actually did not mind the Netflix one. I don't care what people say. I mean, it was a really fun flick. You even had the kid from The Ring, and it was cool seeing him popping up. So if you guys never really seen the 2003 Texas Chainsaw remake, give that one a go. I actually can't remember who played Leatherface in this one. Let me check. I think I'm trying to remember who played Leatherface. Oh yeah, Andrew. I can never pronounce his last name. Andrew Bryanowski. He of course was the one who played Leatherface, and there's lots of different actors who play Leatherface. I can never really, other than Gunnar Hansen, I can never remember all of them from the top of my head. Um, but yeah, obviously Gunnar Hansen will always be the core Leatherface, but Andrew still did a decent job. All right. Also turning 20, we got the legal drama Runaway Jury, directed by Gary Fleder, who directed some interesting stuff like Don't Say a Word. He did that Jason Statham movie Homefront. This also is based on a John Grisham novel called The Runaway Jury, and stars John Cusack, Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman, Rachel Weisz. And the film pits lawyer Wendell Rohr, played by Hoffman, against shitty jury constant Rentgen Fitch, played by Hackman, and uses unlawful means to stack the jury with people sympathetic to the defense. Meanwhile, a high-stake cat and mouse game begins when juror Nicholas Easter, played by Cusack, and his girlfriend Molly, played by Weiss, appears to be able to sway the jury into delivering any verdict they want in a trial against a gun. And of course, there's been lots of really cool films based on John Grisham novels, where you talk about The Client. The Rainmaker is a really good one. This is not really like the best one, but it's a really intriguing cat and mouse game. I really like the jury stuff. I love a good like courtroom based film, and Runaway Jury is a really intriguing one worth checking out. So get that one to go if you guys have seen it. All right, also turning 20, we got Sylvia, which stars Gwyneth Paltrow, Daniel Craig, Jared Harris, and the late great Micah Gambon. And it tells the story based on the real life romance between poets Sylvia Plath and Ted Hughes. Of course, you don't know this movie also begins with their like meeting at Cambridge in 1956, and ends with Sylvia Plath's suicide in '63. And Graham Paltrow was terrific in this one. Of course, Daniel Craig, before he, got the Bond role, was terrific. I mean, I did not really know too much about Sylvia Plath before I saw this, but it is insane. How she, like, what happened to her. But Paltrow and Craig both really play off each other well in this. So if you guys never really seen Sylvia, give this one a go. All right. Now the film's that is celebrating its 20th. We of course got Pieces of April. Definitely really decent Thanksgiving movie to watch. It is directed by Pierre Hedges, who's done some really decent stuff. Like he recently put out that Lucas Hedges and Julia Roberts film "Ben Is Back" a couple years ago. Now this film stars the likes of Katie Holmes, Derek Luke, Sean Hayes, Oliver Platt, Patricia Clarkson, and the film follows April, played by Holmes, as she attempts to prepare a Thanksgiving dinner for her estranged family. And Katie Holmes is terrific. Maybe this might be her best performance in my opinion. Patricia Clarkson was terrific. Of course, she plays like her mother here. Sean Hayes is great. I mean, I always love a good dysfunctional family film, and this is a really definitely has some fun laughs to it. Definitely has some heart to it too. So if you've never really seen Pieces of April, give that one a go. Really good flick. All right, now films celebrating their 30th anniversary. Rudy. We got one of the greatest football movies there is, and that is Rudy. Now, Rudy is based on is pretty much based on the true story of Dan and Rudy Rudiger, who harbor dreams of playing football at the University of Notre Dame, despite significant obstacles. It was the first film that Notre Dame administration allowed to be shot on campus. I mean, of course, this has Sean Astin, who maybe one of his greatest performances there is. You had a very young John Favreau was in this. You had like Vince Vaughn, the late great Ned Beatty, Lily Taylor, Robert Prosky, Jason Miller, Charles S. Dutton. I mean, I'm not really a sports guy. I've said this many times. I'm not a sports guy at all. I do love a good football film though. Like something about a football film, like I don't know, maybe it's the underdog story and everything, always appeals to me. And Sean Astin is great in this. I I think I did my top 10 favorite football movies a couple years ago, and obviously Rudy was definitely on the top of that list. My top three favorite football movies there is will always be Rudy, Remember the Titans, and Radio. And Rudy is just terrific. Of course, the iconic chant of Rudy, Rudy. Definitely one of Sean Astin's best roles. It is a really intriguing film worth checking out. So if you guys never really seen Rudy, definitely give it a go. It's really decent. All right. Also turning dirty, we got the classic Nightmare Before Christmas. Now I forgot to talk about this in my opening streaming segment. Yesterday, but if you guys are interested in seeing Nightmare Before Christmas in theaters, they are actually re-releasing it in 3D. So if you guys are interested in seeing that in theaters, good news, you'll be able to. And of course, this is directed by Henry Selick, who last put out When in the Wild last year. And of course, he gave us like films such as Coraline. Coraline. I don't know what else. Oh yeah, James and John Peachy put out. This was also produced by this was actually more like I guess say produced by Tim Burton or something like that. Which I always find it weird that they say Tim Burton presents Nightmare Before Christmas when he never directed it. I always found that to be odd. But obviously Tim Burton was very popular at the time with stuff like Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice. So I guess that makes sense. And if you guys don't know much about the story here, it tells the story of Jack Skeleton, the king of Halloween Town, who stumbles upon Christmas Town and schemes to take over the holiday. Danny Elfman wrote the songs and score the provided and of course did the score and provided the singing voice of Jack. The voice sounds also include Chris Sarandon. Of course, you might know who of course appeared, starred in The Princess Bride. He was also Detective Mike Norris in the first Child's Play. You also had Kevin McAllister's mom herself, Catherine O'Hara, the late great Pee Wee Herman star Paul Rubens. I mean, some really decent voice sounds in that. And of course, it was stop motion, and it is really a either a Christmas Halloween classic. Like you can never really tell what you call it. You never could tell if you call it a Christmas film, a Halloween film. That's always a debate there. But yeah, and of course, Henry Selick, by the way, has been talking about a possible sequel in the future, which I'm all down to see. So yeah, if you guys never seen Nightmare Before Christmas, it's a really classic anime film worth checking out. All right. Also turning dirty, we got the Beverly Hillbillies, which is directed by Penelope Shapiris, who directed The Little Rascals from '94 and Wayne's World. And this is based on the iconic 1962 to 71 TV series, and starred the likes of Ernest himself, Jim Varney, Deirdre Bader, Cloris Leachman, Rob Schneider, Leah Thompson, Lily Tomlin, and it, like I said, it is based on the iconic TV series from the '60s. And the film follows a poor hillbilly named Jed Campbell, played by Ronnie, who becomes a billionaire after inadvertently finding crude oil on his property while firing his gun here. And it actually even features pretty much some of the hillbilly. It even features like some interesting cameos by Dolly Parton, Zaza Gabor. You even had original Beverly Hillbillies star Buddy Epson, who by the way was originally gonna play the Tin Man of the Wizard of Oz. Fun fact. But Buddy Epson, in his final film appearance, also had a fun part. It's not a great film, but it's actually more of a guilty pleasure of mine. I mean, it's pretty much those comedies that's so bad it's good. You really take this one too seriously. Jim Varney, you can never go wrong with Jim Varney. Come on. If no one never seen the Ernest movies, you're missing out on that one. R.I.P. Jim Varney, by the way. He was also the voice of Slinky in Toy Story. Cool, cool fact there. But yeah, this also has some really fun, some really fun, appearances and all. I mean, if you guys never seen it, give it a go. I mean, maybe check out the TV show as well. Like, obviously, the Beverly Hillbillies was way ahead of my time, but the show was actually pretty good, Jay. All right. Also turning 30, we got Fearless, about two survivors of the same plane crash, one crushed by grief and the other surprisingly fearless, must learn how to reconnect with the rest of humanity. This was directed by Pierre Ware, who directed The Truman Show, and starred the likes of Jeff Bridges, Isabella Rossellini, John Turturro, and Rosie Perez, and it's based on a book of the same name. Now, this was also the movie that won Rosie Perez her first ever Oscar, and others are there. Of course, Rosie Perez obviously is best known for other cool stuff too, like Do the Right Thing, White Man Can't Jump. She's been some really iconic stuff. Who doesn't love Rosie Perez? And of course, she was terrific in this. It's very intense at times. The performances by Bridges great. Give this one a go if you guys haven't seen it. But that's pretty much it there. Let me lead you guys. Which of these films stand out to you the most? To me, okay, either I should say 12 Years a Slave, because obviously that's the best picture winner. I'm actually going to go with the 2013's Carrie. I'm sorry, I had a fun time with that more than most people did. The 20-year one is another horror remake. I'm going to go with the one that stands out to me the most there, will be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the 30-year one should possibly say Nightmare Before Christmas, because I obviously had put it as a thumbnail. I'm going to get heat for this. I'm going to say Rudy. I mean, Rudy is just one of the greatest football films there is. And yeah, but anyway, drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Timmy Sign.